A very pleasant good afternoon as we welcome you in to a Tuesday edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show here at Quaker Steak and Lube, our favorite place to be. This is a great time of the year to be heading down to the Lube. Enjoy the great food, great beverages, and yep, we've got playoff baseball. We've got the thick of the NFL and college football season, and of course the start of the NHL season. And you can check it all out here at Quaker Steak and Lube while you enjoy that great food and beverage served by the best staff you're going to find anywhere in these here parts of the United States. Lots to get into today, Goon. I've always felt it's not the size of your runway, it's how you use it.
It is. It's all about the runway size.
And, you know, as I understand it, the girth of the runway is okay. It's the length that seems to be the issue here. I would think you want more girth as well as length is what I would think. But let's start there because it seems to be on a week where I thought everybody would be dialed in here on the game.
It's crazy,
James Franklin's comments on, it'd be nice to have an airport you could just fly in and out of. That seems to be garnering, if not the Lions' share of attention, a good bit of attention anyway, at least over the 24-hour news cycle period here.
So I have to ask, does Indiana, Illinois, Purdue, do they have – I mean, I know that they're closer to L.A. than we are, so they can probably make – and we're talking about the planes and all that, and James is absolutely catching grief for saying something like that. But, I mean, I don't blame him one bit, but is it that big of a deal? I mean, we traveled every game of my career. We used to go to Michigan and Ohio State from Harrisburg.
Yeah.
You know, it was like that was the thing. The airport wasn't big enough then to take a plane of all of us back. So we would go to Harrisburg every game, and then we would fly back on the little triple Red Barons, offense, defense, and support staff.
Well, after the first title in '82,
they drove back from Harrisburg. I remember that because they lined the street.
Yes, I mean that was probably you would have missed that, and I understand the advantages of missing that, but you would have missed that bus trip back. So I feel like maybe James just needs to hold off on commenting on it until he sees that parade of people that will greet the national champion Indy Lions after they win it on the bus ride back. From
Do you think he was complaining though? It looks like the reporters are making he didn't say it in like the way that it's being reported.
I think that's fair. I think he wanted to get it out there and get a conversation going and seeing if he could get the powers that be moving in that direction to getting an airport. It's interesting because, again, if you had asked me Saturday night, Ironhead, what do you think Goon and you are going to be talking about right out of the gate here on Tuesday? I am telling you, the State College Regional Airport, formerly known as the University Park Airport, would not have been anywhere on my top 200, 500 list of possible topics. Never would have thought that's where we were going. And listen, I think there's actually a bunch of different interesting facets to it because I brought up on our morning show, well, listen, it feels like this would be a move, and I'm not necessarily arguing for or against, but it would be just to provide the opportunity for the football team to go in and out. It doesn't feel like there's a great need here for those bigger planes. And especially when you look at the number of flights that are in and out of State College as it is. Like, we're not exactly a thriving hub right now of air traffic. However, I will say there's a couple of other things that are in play. And some of them, as you said, I don't think this was as big of an issue. Not to say that it's not an issue, but I don't think it's as big of an issue if you don't have the four formerly Pac-12 programs now in the Big Ten. I do think that changes the equation a bit. And I think one of the issues for me moving forward with that is I don't think this is long for the offering. Meaning, I don't think, as it is currently constructed,
I don't think it either.
the Big Ten is going to, I don't think this is 10 years from now, and I could be wrong. This is speculation, admittedly. Well, I had a good weekend on my speculation. More on that to come.
You did.
However, so I don't think you want to go too, man, yep, let's get this done right away. And then you're sitting there, it's like, oh, okay, well, we never ended up using this extended runway for much of anything.
Other than football, what would it be needed for?
Right now, I don't think anything.
Nothing.
Now, is it conceivable that down the road, as State College and this area continues to grow, and I will say some of the folks that are involved in tourism, Happy Valley Adventure Bureau, and I'm going to get the name wrong, but the folks that are bringing tourism in, and we're seeing some pretty significant events from the Ironman triathlon to some of the concerts now at Beaver Stadium,
cross tournaments, softball tournaments, basketball tournaments, baseball tournaments.
Yes, all kinds of conventions that could potentially be working their way here and all of that. And we're seeing, much to the consternation of some like me, the very quick growth of downtown State College. I think very quick in terms of not so much outward, there's not a lot you can do, but up. And it has more, and I understand somebody coming from New York City probably would laugh at this, but it has more of a metropolitan feel to it than it certainly ever has previously. And I think that is going to continue for the foreseeable future. I don't think you're going to see a sudden halt to the projects downtown, and we have seen more of those projects, and a couple that are wrapping up or have wrapped up, and a couple that are going to be
they're moving up to the stadium now.
That'll be coming down the pike here. So is it possible, I suppose, that you would have an international airport here? I guess maybe somewhere down the road. I don't think we're looking at that scenario anytime in the real near future. I'm not sure that you're ever looking at that, but I do think so. This is, and Mike Poorman, I was listening to Late Lunch with Chris Buchanani, which you can hear 1 to 2 weekdays on Sports Radio 98.7 The Fox. Don't miss it. One of the things that he was talking about with Mike Poorman was the impact. They're talking the connection that Penn State and this community have. I mean, you really don't have one without the other. I mean, State College does not grow certainly the way it has, and probably not much at all without the university here. And it's not just the college students and the jobs that the university provides, a big part of it for sure, but it is also why this area is such a retirement destination. Without the university and being able to go to Penn State athletics and some of the concerts and side things that come with that, with having that college campus, you're not getting the retirees that en masse come to this area. Many who went to Penn State and follow Penn State, but some who just, it's like, man, this is a neat area. I'm just going to move there. And yes, because it's a college campus, there's some attractiveness to it because there is a vitality to a college town that you can feel. And I think most of us would agree that have lived here for some time, that you love it when the students leave. You feel like you have your town back. It's a little more quiet. It's kind of nice. But, man, you love it when the students come back because you feed off of that energy. The area feeds off of it. And obviously the economic impact. Yes, the economic impact is substantial. And we can argue all we want about whether this is the way it should be or not, but the way it is, the practical reality is, Penn State football drives the overall success of the university and to a large degree the overall economic engine of the area.
We learned that in 2011 when the free stuff came out, how dependent we were upon football in 2012.
Yep. So to that end, the substantial costs that would be involved to make the runway and the airport be what it would need to be for that to happen, there are going to be some that, and I can understand the argument, hey, we're not doing all of that just so the football team can fly to USC and UCLA. Give me a break. On the other hand, I think Penn State football can very rightfully come back and say, you do understand, right? Like the millions that are coming into this area, that doesn't happen without us. And might there be an arrangement? And again, I have no idea. You would think at least there will be some discussions here at some point. Hey, can the university or the athletic department chip in here? Can we get money from there? Can we get some donors involved and make this happen? I mean, I think it is certainly worth the conversation, whether or not ultimately people agree to have this happen or not. Certainly worth a conversation, no?
Do you have any idea of the length, the cost, or anything that would have to get where we're talking? Has a number ever even bought up?
Yes, there have been, and there are. Yes, to answer your question, no, I don't have them, and no, I don't know.
I have
what
to say
all.
this because so people will say it's just because of the football, and it is just football.
Yeah,
because when basketball flies to USC and lacrosse flies to USC and
wrestling, well, they don't fly to USC.
They're not going to USC, but they're going to go out west. You know what I mean?
Well, we're going to go to Hawaii when Hawaii adds wrestling and becomes part of the Big Ten.
Right?
Conference.
They can fly direct out of here. They just don't have. It's just the football team is 100 and 200 people on a plane, and they can't get enough gas on there.
Right.
Now, if there's only a basketball team and support staff, there's only 50 people. They can carry more gas, so they can make it. So it truly is just a football team, and maybe 2 times a year, at max, 2 times a year. But do you think that we're going to get flights in here from Denver, from Atlanta, from Dallas, from Phoenix? No, I don't think we are. So why? And again, you know where I'm from. You know where every game we drove down to Harrisburg. We played Ohio State. We drove an hour and a half east to fly right back over State College. You know, and we played Michigan State. When we played on that was it. And then we would fly back on in the individual plane. So it's not that big of a deal. I mean, I understand where Coach is coming from because it is an inconvenience, but I'm going to say that for that to be the first inconvenience for him is crazy to think about because, you know, the first thing I wanted to start to talk about is, did you at UCLA do the right thing last week and come here at 4:00 in the afternoon
on Friday
and then play the game 20 hours later? Was that the way to do it? Or was it the way that Coach Franklin's going to do it and go out a day or two early? Whether that's in Harrisburg or coming out of State College, going out to USC 2 days early. That has always been. I can't believe that UCLA made their guys do that to me. But there's another side to every coin, and that might be better. And just get in here and spend as least time as you possibly can in the East. Get in, get out, and don't ruin your biological clocks, I guess you'd say, and just run off that time. But like. UCLA wake-up call was 3:30 Pacific time. That's horrible.
Now, so there's a couple of things about that, and I think this is just going to be interesting to see how everything plays out. So the argument I would make on behalf of UCLA is, listen, we're not going to make this bigger than it is. It's a time change. So let's just get out here. And I will say, based on the start of that game, I don't think it did not look like UCLA was having trouble finding its legs. Out of the gate, that was a pretty solid effort and performance. And even over the course of the game, I think Penn State was the better team that showed up, but it wasn't readily apparent anyway. Like you weren't sitting there watching that. It's like, oh man, this team just looks
sluggish out there.
We did. Yeah. And again, I think to some degree that was
Well, we both expected that.
Yeah,
we talked about that. The other thing that scares me is that it's not set in stone the best way to travel.
Yeah,
but I mean, I would love to research. So there's been 9 cross-country flights. So they've come in east, and then we have, not us, but the other Big Ten schools have gone out west. The visiting team is 1-8 in those games.
Yep. So that's the thing is there. I do think you risk underplaying it because I do think it is a factor, and I think you need to prepare for it. I do think there is such a thing as being overly concerned about it and making too big of a deal out of it. And I think it is tricky. And I don't know that there's necessarily, definitively, my gosh, you got to go out on Thursday and you get and this is how you address it with your team and this or that, or nope, definitively you just go out Friday, you get back as quick as you can after the game, and you don't. I don't think it's either of those. I think it's how does your program react to the situation, whatever it is, and how do you address it? Because I do think you need to address it. It's a 3-hour change in time, and you're making it, whether you go out on Thursday or Friday, it is a quick change, and you need to make that adjustment. And it is an adjustment. How big of a one?
Like
that is debatable.
I constantly talked about the Illinois game from 1994. We just get knocked out of your travel pattern, out of your regimen. Your regimen gets a little bit screwy. You know, it's from a 2.5-hour flight to a 6-hour flight is what you're taking now. Now, if they're coming out of Harrisburg and they're using the same plane that they used to fly out to the SC, to the Rose Bowl a couple of years ago, remember they were all first-class business seats and guys could lay down and stuff like that. If that's the issue, then I get it. If you don't want your players stuffed into a 3, I mean, there's those rows are 3 seats, but there's only 2 guys in there. I mean, if I can do it, you can do it, but we're not playing a football game a day or 2 later.
Right.
And is that what James is worried about is his guys getting out there and being stiff. And I get it. There's only one way to figure it out, though. You got to do it. And then James will say, okay, well, you know what? This worked great. This didn't work great. Okay, this is the new Big Ten. We have to get used to this. We're going to go out there at least once a year, at max 2 times, ever.
Yep.
So we got to get used to it. Now, with that said, we've never beat USC at USC. Never. And
again, the Phillies had never beat the Mets in postseason play until Sunday.
Whoa. No, but I mean, 1990 and 91, we lost both times out there.
Yep.
We got our clocks clean against BYU in 92 out there. So it's not easy. It is definitely an issue. And this issue starts this morning, by the way. Okay, so let's talk about, I did some research. I told you I would. I did some research.
You followed through.
And it took UCLA's truck, their equipment, 37 hours to get here. So our truck left Sunday night, okay? And that is full of every piece of equipment these guys are going to wear. And my question was the whole time is that what are our guys practicing in? And I asked Landon Tangwell, the co-host of the shows we're doing, and he says, no, we have game helmets now. Now, the only thing is shoulder pads. Not everybody has 2 pair of shoulder pads, but they definitely have a game helmet. So that's on the bus going out there. Mm-hmm. But are your shoulder pads on their way out there? How you need 140 new pair of shoulder pads because they left on a bus Sunday night. The helmets and shoulder pads, the pants, the shoes, all of that stuff. So what cleats are they practicing in? It's a lot of stuff that goes into this cross country and then this cross country tour. We had literally have talked about this since 2 years ago when they joined the Big Ten. It is a huge thing. Remember, we talked about, hey, maybe there's a halfway point in like Kansas City or something like that where maybe a team can go out there and spend a couple of days, have a practice facility, have a hotel for their guys, have a classroom for their guys. So they're not making the trip every couple of weeks. I mean, those 4 West Coast teams they got to come east, 3 times at least, maybe 4? That's a lot.
Yeah.
They put a lot of burden on themselves, but we knew that going in. And what did they say? That's fine. We're so bankrupt in the Pac-12, we'll do whatever. And that's sad, but it is the way of the name of the game right now. So why is it a difference for the NFL? So the NFL is that their rule is if actually I believe if you have to cross over the the Mississippi. If you have to cross the Mississippi, you got to go out there on 2 days before the game. If it's a closer game that's within a couple states or something like that, you can leave Saturday for a Sunday game. But normally, if it's a longer travel game, you're leaving 2 days before. So it's football. It's you just learn to deal with it, And again, it's once or twice a year, never more than that. Just learn to deal with it, and then I don't know if I don't know if he wanted to create the storm that he started by saying all that, because there's so much more we could be talking about this freaking game than we're talking about the damn airport, And some people are just railing on him because they think he's acting like a baby and he won. He didn't demand anything. He didn't say it like that. If anything, I would have taken it as sort of a tongue-in-cheek, in my opinion. Like, what do you think? Like, do you think he's really like saying, "I want a brand new airport," and then if it doesn't happen, I'm gonna take my ball and go home.
think he wanted to get the conversation started. I do. I think that there was a purpose behind the comments, and again, I think it's a worthwhile conversation to have, and part of that conversation is where would the money come from? Who is paying for it? And
I don't think we need it.
I think
that's my point. And
I think
the
it's
football
worth
team's
discussing.
the only people who would want it.
Right. Yeah. I think for the foreseeable future, that is the case. So, yeah.
I mean, you're a lifelonger here. What's your feel?
Right now, it does not make sense to me. It makes sense to have a conversation about
What's
it.
What happened in 4 years when we start a new conference and the West Coast guys aren't coming in?
I think we're going to end up with a much more regional schedule sooner rather than later, to where this is
I agree.
pretty inconsequential, is my guess. But it that got people talking anyway, and that's never a bad thing, especially for those of us in the business of talking.
It bought out the Franklin haters is what it did. Oh, go somewhere else. Just whatever that man says, everybody's just gonna crap on it anyway. So
yeah, there's a hand.
I
don't think it's all that great of a number of people, but regardless,
they're all on social media. Then
let's talk a little bit about. Well, yes, that is the case. Let's talk a little bit about this USC game, because from the Penn State perspective, USC losing to Minnesota was very bad news, because it takes away a lot of the luster that would have come from a win over USC out there if the Trojans had won. And listen, USC would have been in the top 10 this week. So we went from, we being Penn State, the Penn State community, went from having a chance to pick up a road victory at a top 10 program.
Correct.
To an unranked opponent.
If you
now,
lose this, you're done.
Where, again, the loss, well, we can talk about that a little bit too. But it is certainly much more devastating now if you lose this, and not as rewarding if you win it, than if USC had just won that game over Minnesota by a point. I think USC would be ranked in the top 10. And again, you lose that, you're on the road, you're going to get dinged, but it's not exactly an earth-shattering loss. Well, you lost to a top 10 team on the road. And if you win that game, you get a ton of cred. I had said earlier in the week, and I'll stand by it, but I do have a caveat to it now, and I'm not as strongly convinced of what I said on Monday. What I said Monday on our morning show is I think that November 2nd game with Ohio State coming to Beaver Stadium to take on Penn State will be a matchup of number 1 versus number 2. I think Ohio State will be the top-ranked team in the country, and Penn State will be the second-ranked team in the country.
Right on.
Now, I do think there's a scenario here where things play out the way they would need to for that to happen, and it still doesn't happen, and that is this. So part of the reason I believe that to be the case, and I still think it's likely that at least in one of the two polls that will be the case, is you obviously have Ohio State and Oregon playing this weekend. One of them obviously will then have a loss. So one of the teams ranked ahead of Penn State, presumably with that loss, would fall behind Penn State. Now, had USC won the game with Minnesota, I think there's no caveats here. Right. I think if Penn State is undefeated and Ohio State's undefeated, I think they end up 1-2, and I'll go through the other things that have to happen that I think will happen. But so I think Ohio State does go to Eugene and wins that game at Oregon. Even if Oregon wins it, it sets up. It's not going to be a 1-2 matchup then, Penn State and Ohio State, but again, because Ohio State is at Oregon, so long as it is a competitive game, it's not exactly a devastating loss for Ohio State. But I think Ohio State wins the game. I actually think they're going to win it fairly comfortably. And so you say, well,
do you really?
Ironhead, I do. I don't think Oregon's offensive line, I do. We'll get into more of that. I think Ohio State, listen, I've thought from day one, Ohio State is the best team in the country. I still think that. I think Texas is very good. I think Texas will have a loss between now and then. And for those of you saying, well, yeah, I mean, it would be Ohio State 1 and Penn State 2, except you have Texas there. Well, Texas plays Georgia in 2 weeks. And
Oklahoma
guess who they play?
Week.
Yeah, you have the Red Rivalry game, Red River rivalry game this week. And if that game, Texas certainly should win it. I don't think Oklahoma is as good, but it is a rivalry game. Weird things happen in rivalry games, and especially, Oklahoma wants to make a statement. Not that Texas doesn't, but I suspect this might be the best effort Oklahoma gives all season long. Now, I think Texas will be up to the task. I think Texas wins it. However, coming off of the heels of that rivalry game, they have the game with Georgia. Now, it is in Austin next week, but I think that is a really tough get for Texas because it's obviously now a fairly desperate Georgia team already.
They are desperate.
And then the following week, so even if they get by those two, and I don't think they get by those two, guess who's sitting there the week before Penn State takes on Ohio State? Yes, they make the little trip to Vanderbilt, which it turns out might not be the gimme that most people would have ascribed it to be just 4 days ago.
Wow.
So I think Texas loses at least one of those games. I think it's Georgia. I think they win the other two, but 3 dangerous games there in my mind for Texas. It is. So
do they play Bama? Texas?
Not before Penn State and Ohio State meet. So you have Texas with that run before the Penn State Ohio State game. Again, I think Texas loses at least one of those games. Now, my caveat is this, because I do think that the loss here by USC to Minnesota, it is entirely possible. Georgia already sits in front of Penn State in the coaches poll. And I think it is possible, maybe bordering on likely, that Georgia, with a win over Texas, vaults Penn State in both polls. Well, they vault them in the AP poll, certainly would remain in front of them in the coaches poll, regardless of what Penn State does with USC and Wisconsin. Because now you have 2 unranked, they're road wins, but against unranked opponents, you don't get a lot of credit for that. Certainly not the credit that Georgia would get for going to Austin, and especially if Texas does win this weekend and knocking off what would be the number one team in the country. That completely flips things around from the perspective on Georgia's season at this point. And my guess is now that Georgia would be probably a consensus two behind Ohio State if Ohio State beats Oregon. And Georgia, I looked it up. They have Mississippi State this week and then Texas. And then I think they have a bye week.
So the SEC, they're still Ole Miss. They're still Bama, LSU, Georgia.
Well, the SEC is an absolute mess right now, like a fun, exciting mess, and all kinds of scenarios.
It'll all work out
that can play out.
Well, you're right. You said Georgia's going to be desperate if they lose to Texas. That's 2 losses. They can pretty much consider themselves out.
Well, no, not out of
playing
the
SEC title game.
Yes.
But I mean, you can do all the numbers and stuff like that. There's only 11 teams that can make it.
Yeah, so Georgia has, again, Mississippi State this week, then they're at Texas, then they do have the bye week, and then on November 2nd, they host Florida, which basically is another bye week.
Anymore.
And so now after that, things can change because then they go to Ole Miss, they have Tennessee at home. Like, it's going to be a couple of interesting games after Penn State and Ohio State square off. So
I'll say this, Jeff.
Yep.
We have always given the SEC a lot of crap for not playing all of their teams and stuff like that, like Alabama, Georgia, that type of stuff.
Yes.
Or the Big Ten. But, dude, how many teams in the Big Ten? We are one of them. Rutgers is one of them who have a very, very, very beneficial schedule. This is a big, big year because of the schedule. We don't have Oregon. We don't have Michigan on our schedule, which is a huge thing. Rutgers doesn't have any of the top 4 teams on their schedule. So, we always bang on the SEC for that because those guys don't play. But it seems like they're playing this year, and we're going up against the Purdue's, the Minnesotas. Minnesota and Indiana actually aren't really cakewalks anymore right now. But you know what I'm saying, though.
Yep. Well, so, yes. And there's a couple of things that I also think are going to be fascinating to watch as the season unfolds, because it has been presumed all along, I think by most, that 10-2, and I think we talked about before the season, 10-2 gets you into the playoffs if you're a Big Ten or an SEC team. The way the season is playing out, I am telling you that is not necessarily going to be the case. And that's why I do think this game with USC is a really critical one for Penn State, because depending on how some other things play out, and Washington is the team now that if you're Penn State, you are rooting like crazy for the Huskies to win all of their games between now and the trip to
strength of schedule is going to come into play
right now. I get it was one game, USC and Minnesota, but that game and the consequences to it, if Penn State, I think they will get in at 11-1. I can't really envision the scenario where they don't, but I'm telling you, there's going to be an argument, and it's going to be a pretty reasonable argument.
I'm with you.
To make against Penn State, especially if that loss is lopsided. Let's say couple of touchdowns or more to Ohio State, because when you go back, and again, we got to see how the season plays out, but right now,
would we play them a second time then in the Big Ten title, maybe?
Right now, potentially. Right now, there's not a game that you're looking at saying, well, yep, Penn State lost to Ohio State, but man, look at that marquee victory. There's not a marquee victory there. Now, we'll see how the season plays out. Could West Virginia go on a run down the stretch? Could happen. Could USC catch fire and have no further losses, and they could get some good wins under their belt? Could happen, I guess. I think the most likely scenario right now is if Penn State loses that game to Ohio State, regardless of what happens here with USC, I think it is likely that Penn State has no wins against top 20 teams, maybe no wins against top 25 teams at the end of the season, meaning at the end of the regular season, when you look at that top 25, there may be none of Penn State's opponents other than Ohio State that would be in the pool. And the argument, and I think ultimately if Penn State goes 11-1, even if it's a 17-point loss to Ohio State, again, I think they would be in. But I think it's not an automatic surefire. Well, yes, of course, because my guess is all of the other playoff contenders, and I haven't really sat down and looked this the whole way through, but I think everybody else would have at least a win over a top 25 opponent that would be in consideration. And this is where you're going to get into some dicey discussions here is, all right, well, what about strength of schedule? And as we've talked about, Goon, I mean, you presume, right, while you're in the Big Ten, Penn State doesn't control the Big Ten schedule, you presume you're going to get a couple of ranked opponents in there, and I mean ranked at the end of the season. I think it is, again, to me, it is likely right now that ends up not being the case. And I'm just looking at Washington's schedule because I was trying to remember. They play USC the week before the week that Penn State plays Ohio State. So the week before
us,
Washington comes in here.
Ooh.
They have that USC game, and that'll be at home for the Huskies. But the week before that, well, let's go back. This coming Saturday, they play Iowa, but it's at Iowa. And I know right now people are penciling, well, that's a win for Washington. I'm telling you, this feels like a dangerous game because Iowa was right there at halftime, and I get it's a two-half game, but they were right there at halftime. Now, Ohio State made it a laugher. It was a 35-7 win for the Buckeyes at the end of the day. But, again, I think that is the best team in the country in Ohio State. And so now you have an Iowa team that's licking its wounds, at home is going to want to come out and show, hey, that second half against Ohio State, that's not who we are. And the combination here is you have Washington coming off the high of a victory over Michigan. So that is a big marquee win for Washington here this season. I think this is a really dangerous spot for Washington. They're on the road. This is a team that they're playing that wants to come out and show, and I think it's a good defensive team. I think there's a chance that Washington gets a little too caught up now in the hoopla that, okay, man, we've figured it all out. We got the win over Michigan. I don't know. I'll have to look at it. I should have looked this up. I don't know what the spread on that game is. That just feels like a really dangerous spot, and it's an early kickoff, by the way, too. It's a noon Eastern time kick for that game. So it'll be
Iowa, so it's 11
it's 11 o'clock there, and it'll be 9 o'clock. It'll feel like 9 o'clock for Washington. That is, I'm just telling you, that is a dangerous game. I don't think that's a given for Washington. And then Washington turns around and goes on the road to face Indiana. And Indiana actually became the first bowl-eligible team in college football this season. Not sure how many folks have that on their scorecard.
Two bye weeks in the last 6 weeks.
So
think about that.
What's that?
Indiana's going to have 2 bye weeks in 6 weeks. What do you mean? Everybody had a bye so far. That's why they have 6 wins. They're already both
Indiana.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So they're going to they get 2 byes because they're in the Big Ten. So their next 6 weeks they'll have 2 bye weeks.
Yeah.
Or next 8, excuse me.
Yeah. That has nothing to do with Washington.
No, Indiana. I'm saying.
Yeah.
God.
So this is so the chances of Washington. You tell me. I think the chances are very low. I've been very impressed with Washington. They have been, for me, them and Indiana have been the 2 biggest surprises to this point. But I don't see Washington getting to this Penn State game without suffering at least one more loss. Again, at Iowa, at Indiana, and then home with USC.
No.
I think it is very unlikely that Washington gets through those 3 games without another loss. And if they have another loss, when Penn State faces them, Penn State does not have a chance other than Ohio State, and obviously that's a big opportunity. But other than Ohio State, they do not have a chance to get a signature or marquee victory. Mm-hmm. And from a national perspective, they don't even have a chance to get a win of significance. Now, this win for Penn State is going to be significant if they can get it at USC. I'm talking about national perception. National perception is going to be, well, okay, you went on the road and beat a team that you were a 9 or 9.5 point favorite over, and that just lost to Minnesota. I mean, congratulations. There's the confetti for you, Nittany Lions. And so,
win them all.
I think Penn State does get in again at 11-1 to the playoffs. I don't know that it is the guarantee that I thought it was at the start of the season. If this team goes 10-2, that they're just, you definitively pencil them in for the playoffs. Not sure that is necessarily the case now with the way this season is playing out.
Hey, so I'm interested. We're talking about travel.
Yep.
Does Washington stay in the Midwest?
No.
You think they're going to leave? I'll leave Iowa, fly home Sunday, and then fly out again Friday to the Midwest.
Yep, for sure.
Because it's the Midwest. It's not going completely far east.
Yeah, and classes and all of that.
I mean, we've noticed in other sports that you just throw a couple tutors out there, they can have their classes.
There you go.
I'd be interested to see what they do.
Take a break here. We're back with more. It's the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show here at Quaker Steak and Lube.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Get our Best Wings USA, signature sauces, mouth-watering appetizers, or any of our delicious award-winning lube favorites.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half-century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
Two of the top names in local printing have combined to serve you better. King Printing of State College has merged with theprinters.com, forming one of the 400 largest printers in America. Combining traditional offset printing and digital workflow techniques, theprinters.com can print, assemble, package, and ship to anywhere in the world, all with the same high quality customers have known and trusted for over 50 years. Buy local and save. Get started today at theprinters.com.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen O'Habaker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen O'Habaker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen O'Habaker.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union, you belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
You have to get going with the Happy Valleys 98.7 The Fox. The Goon and Ironhead.
We welcome you back here on a very nice Tuesday afternoon, an autumnal afternoon.
First
here
time
in the Valley of Happiness. First time, what?
crisp. The crisp fall air. Today was the first day I woke up and I went, oh, it smells like the fall. So it just smells like football.
Yeah.
We've had a pretty warm couple weeks. I mean, other than the 16 straight rain days. Saturday's weather for tailgating, by the way, you were there. The most primo type. I mean, it was perfect. It was very nice in the sun, but it had a nice little chill. If you got a little warm in the sun, you go into the shade and you have a nice little chill. The sun was warm. Great weather for tailgating on Saturday. Fantastic weather.
Yeah. It was pretty darn nice day. No question about that.
You're
And
out there walking around working. Come on, man.
the end of the day, Penn State takes care of business, which is more than a lot of teams around the country can say. And I know, sometimes you get caught up in your program and your expectations. I will say there is something to be said for just finding ways to win. And while I would agree Penn State has not looked spectacular and overwhelming the last couple of weeks, I also think they've looked really solid. And I think you can see some things starting to come together here. And I think there is potential for this team to be truly one of the contenders here by the end of the season. Now, it needs to get better between now and the end of the season, right? Obviously. But I think some of the reasons that I am optimistic that this team will, one, handle business at USC, and two, will in fact be in the playoffs and will have earned a playoff spot, is what we're seeing with the offense, even though, again, it certainly is not ranking as one of the most explosive in all of the country. What you're seeing with Liam Clifford on Saturday, obviously 3 big catches, all big yardage plays. And that is a guy that I think most of us, and I know I, think of as, well, that's kind of a possession guy. He can make some catches for you, but not exactly expecting him to be the guy that breaks it open down the middle of the field. Thinking that that's more Omari Evans and Trey Wallace, that's more their territory. So the fact that he has done that Tyler Warren is doing all of the things he can do, presumably that you'll have Nicholas Singleton back with Katron Allen this week to form that 1-2 punch in the backfield with the running game. And you add Bo Pabula into the mix with what Penn State can do offensively. It is a lot now for opposing defenses to try to prepare for. And I think Penn State can set you up in a bunch of different ways. And while I think the offense has been good to this point, I think there is a chance that it will catch fire here and really become one of the top offensive units in the country. That offensive line, Goon, is, it is really coming on here.
And I don't think we've really let it go yet. Have you? I think we've played very conservatively. And that is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
I think that our offensive line is massive and just crushing people right now. And I think Kotelnicki's saying, okay, this is what we got to do. We got to be a sledgehammer, be bulldozer and run people down. Dude, he's doing stuff out. We're doing stuff out there I haven't seen done in 15, 20 years. Here. I've seen Georgia. I've seen Alabama offensive line. I've seen LSU offensive line. I'm not going to put it up there with Michigan's offensive line from last year because that was probably one of the best I've seen in, I would say 30 years.
Just to throw a number out there.
Just want to put just a round number out there. No, but I mean, I just think that we are. It's like we're taking our image from our offensive line. In my opinion, this team has. They're taking their. I mean, they're just going to be this tough, gritty team. I mean, defensively, we've not given up much at all. I mean, you count those 8 points in the game the other night. That was nothing.
Yeah,
we held you. We had UCLA at 3 points. You know, I think our defense is playing great. The Illinois game scared the hell out of me with that first drive, but they buckled down. I mean, I think they were just as nervous in playing in that whiteout as Illinois was, right? So Illinois goes down, scores a touchdown, and we've given up 3 points since that first drive at Illinois. That's pretty damn good. So I don't think the defense is getting the credit it really is deserving of right now, and I think that our offense is really taking their image and stuff from their offensive line and just saying, hey, we're not going to turn the ball over because my man does not throw interceptions. I think he's at 1.5% of the passes he's thrown in his college career have been intercepted. That's unbelievable.
It is.
It really, truly is unbelievable, and it's going to be some kind of record if he keeps that up. That'll be a 10 for a long time. So he's very safe with the ball. I believe our running backs are pretty safe with the ball. There have been instances where we did fumble and yada, yada, yada. But I truly do think that Kotelnicki just wants to get that run game going and just wear people down and bang them down. And Tom Allen, again, is like the mad scientist at halftime, just shutting people down. And he's done absolutely fantastic. And I have said from day one, I mean, you imagine waking up in your Tom Allen, you've never had a 5-star recruit in your coaching career, and you have 3 of them on defense and 5 4-stars. I mean, geez, Louise, man, he's got to be sitting there going, I got fired from Indiana, and I woke up in a manger. I was born in a manger. I'm at Penn State. I wake up and I can move a potential future first-round pick in Abdul Carter. Say, you know what? We have enough depth of linebacker. I don't need you there. I can move you to defensive end because I have guys back there. And DeLuca, Rojas,
yep,
and King are playing great. I mean, playing great. Making plays, savage guys out there. And again, the defensively, it starts with that D-line and the interior guys. Keep those guys off. Make the linebackers make the plays. They'll make the plays. But, I mean, they're putting pressure on the quarterback. I mean, I'm not complaining about one damn thing about this team right now, other than, it's never going to be I don't think they're ever going to have the ability to just blow people out by like 30 or 40. Whereas Ohio State can go out 7-0 at halftime and then put 38 on a pretty good damn Iowa team.
Where's our confidence level for you?
Uh-huh.
Let's kind of not the scenario you're hoping for, but Penn State has driven down. It is the Nittany Lions down 21-20. Mm-hmm. Penn State gets down to about the 35-yard line. And here we go. Last play of the game. Here comes Ryan Barker. What's our confidence level here, Goon?
You really bringing up kickers, man?
I'm bringing up kickers.
Oh.
We're going to be bringing it up at some point. I'm just telling you, at some point this season, and it might not be until the playoffs. Again, I really think Penn State is going to be able to handle USC. I know I get the cross-country travel part. I do think that's the biggest concern. It really is.
And USC's they're wounded. So that's a tough animal to beat, man.
I think there'll be a desperate team, but I also I think there is a reason they are where they're at. And that reason is they're not one of the top 15 teams in the country. And they're somewhere in that 15 to 30 range.
What else have you noticed?
And
I don't think they like the coach. I don't know if you've watched them that close, but
I don't know that that's necessarily the case.
We'll see.
Well, yeah. Uh-huh. I think the fans are ready to turn. So I think one of the more fascinating things to watch is if Penn State, and this has not been Penn State's MO this season, but if Penn State can get off to a quick start, I think it'll be really interesting to see how quickly you hear the Boo Birds out at from the USC perspective.
Now you sound like me.
But
we've always been in agreement about Game 7 of hockey's, but that's definitely it. There's pressure. There's going to be pressure on Lincoln to, hey, we paid you a lot of money. You're in year 3 here, year 4. I mean, you're not doing. You've not gotten any better. You've lost your best player in Caleb Williams. So now, you were really nothing without him. They will turn on him, and they turn him on in LA. They just won't show up. That's what I'm seeing, and what I'm thinking is that the players don't really, because we're in that world now, man. It's a different world where guys are getting paid. They're not playing for the love of the game, for the love of the university. They're this and that. So they're getting their money, but they're still going to get their money win, lose, or draw. So I hear one more guy saying I'm redshirting because I'm not getting enough playing time. Dude, I don't know where the guy was from. I just saw it today, and I was like, are these kids now declare if they're going to redshirt and they're going to transfer? So now it's even worse for me. How do you deal with that kid the rest of the semester on campus? You quit on us. You're redshirting? Okay, come on and practice then. And you're going to get lit up every play. Man, what a different world, though, Jeffrey. It's a different world we're living in with these guys.
Well, and again, we're waiting to see how all of this season plays out. So, I want to see what happens with LSU this weekend, because that win. So if you go through USC right now, and the reason that the pressure I do think is ramped up this weekend for the Trojans, and listen, it's there for Penn State too. Make no mistake. Penn State understands the importance of this game and the big picture scenario here. But we talked about it at the time. USC beats LSU. Man, that's a quality win. Right now, it looks like a quality win. How much of a quality win, and whether or not at the end of the year we're looking at that as a quality win, I think is still up in the air. They beat Utah State, then they get beat by Michigan. And now Michigan losing to Washington, I'm not sure exactly where Michigan is falling in the overall.
They should not have lost that
picture
Michigan.
here.
That was a bad loss on their part.
It was.
Not
especially
not an offensive issue either. That was a defensive issue.
Yep. And so listen, and they kind of pulled away from Wisconsin, but I don't think this is a real good Wisconsin team, and that was a competitive game.
Early on for a while it was, you're right.
Yep, up until about halftime. And then, again, they lose to Minnesota, a game that it kind of felt like they should have won. But this is the thing. If you're a team, that's kind of what it feels like USC is right now. They find a way to lose a game like that where – again, to me, it felt like they were probably the better team, not by miles. I mean, you don't look at it and say, oh, I can't believe Minnesota somehow pulled this off. It felt to me, watch it, it's like, okay, I think USC's a little better team, but Minnesota finds a way to win. And now, because you have those losses, right, you're looking like this thing could spiral out of control for USC. In the downward way, because now I think they go across the country to Maryland the week after the Penn State game here. And then they have Rutgers at home. And I have that game circled. I know Rutgers is coming off the loss to Nebraska. I think Nebraska's good, not a great team, not a playoff team. I think Nebraska's good. I think Rutgers, I don't know. We were talking earlier in a couple of weeks ago. Booch was on with me. We were talking about the Big Ten and the SEC. Booch basically paraphrasing, but the Big Ten is garbage after you get past the top 3, maybe 4, whereas the SEC is super strong. I think there's a lot of good teams in both. I do think the SEC this year is going to be a bit of a victim of having their elite teams. And I do think they have probably at least 5 teams that I consider elite. Missouri, by the way, as we talked about last week, not one of them. We'll discuss that more in the next hour. But some of those teams, and it's already happened, obviously, with Alabama and Georgia. But then if you start factoring in a Vanderbilt upset or an Arkansas upset, well, now there's a lot of games that are that now you're circling as keep an eye on that one and see what happens. I will be surprised, bordering on stunned, if anybody in the SEC gets through the season undefeated. I don't think anybody in college football, with the exception of Ohio State, is getting through the regular season undefeated. I don't know. What are you thinking?
I think we have just as chance as they do, in my opinion. It's just going to come down to us and Ohio State to see who's going to win that game.
Yeah.
But, I think the SEC is going to just blow each other up, and they've started that. Who else is undefeated? I mean, you got Pitt out there, man. Pitt.
Yeah. How many teams end up with two losses in the SEC versus how many get through with just one? Like, I think it's going to be a very tall order now for including like the Georgias and the Texases right now that are clearly at the moment at the top. I think it's going to be very hard for, obviously Georgia already has a loss. I think both of those teams are going to have a very difficult time getting through the rest of the year without two losses. Now, I think Texas actually has the best chance, even though I just went through their next 3 weeks. I think overall, I'm trying to find their schedule again here, because after those 3 weeks, and listen, I think, I do think it's challenging because of the rivalry game and because of the matchup with Georgia, and then a little bit of a concern with Vanderbilt. But after that, Florida at home, at Arkansas, maybe you pencil that one a little bit, home with Kentucky, and at Texas A&M. Certainly potential there for another loss.
You bring
potential for a couple
Arkansas
of losses.
and Vanderbilt in there. It's like the Indiana, Minnesota. It's like, what the hell? Where'd they come from? Anybody can beat anybody. It's that old adage.
It's craziness. Anything can happen on a given Saturday.
Correct, buddy.
We're coming right back. It is the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show right here on Sports Radio 98.7 The Fall.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorrento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see ya in a Kia.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
Get our Best Wings USA, signature sauces, mouth-watering appetizers, or any of our delicious award-winning lube favorites.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
Two of the top names in local printing have combined to serve you better. King Printing and State College has merged with theprinters.com, forming one of the 400 largest printers in America. Combining traditional offset printing and digital workflow techniques, theprinters.com can print, assemble, package, and ship to anywhere in the world, all with the same high quality customers have known and trusted for over 50 years. Buy local and save. Get started today at theprinters.com.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen O'Habaker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen O'Habaker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen O'Habaker.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
WFXS, once again, your sports radio.
Broadcasting live, loud and proud from Central PA's Sports Authority, WFXS America.
98.7, the Fox State College. The Goon and Ironhead.
Oh, man, those guys they're just a fun listen to.
Savages.
Who doesn't like listening to the Goon and Ironhead on a Tuesday afternoon?
About 8:38 tonight, you may not want to listen to me if it doesn't go right for the Philadelphia Phillies.
Do want to mention Jed Donahue and the Pennsylvania Sports Network rules your way here from 4 to 6. And then we'll have the Keystone Sports Network, Keystone Kickoff Show with Jim Galati. No, I'm mixed up on my days. Then we will have Fox Sports is what we will have. I'm a day early, and it's still $1.
Many dollars short.
Yes. Lots to get into here in this next hour. Penn State Wrestling schedule, if you did not see it, released today. Finally, I know fans have been anxiously awaiting the release. There are, as I think it had been out there pretty well, 2 Jordan Center duels in the upcoming season. We'll run down the schedule here real quickly. Again, Penn State will open up hosting the NWCA All-Star Classic on Saturday, November 16th at Rec Hall. That'll be a 7 o'clock start, and we'll run through some of the matchups there for Penn State a bit later here. But then the next day, Penn State will host Drexel. That'll be a 1 o'clock dual meet at Rec Hall. And there's a couple of interesting things about the way the season then plays out. So they'll then be at the Army Black Knight Invitational on the 24th of November. That'll be a Sunday. And then Penn State goes to Allentown PPL Center to take on Lehigh in the rivalry match on Sunday, December 8th. And then and then they're off for a week until the home dual meet the following Sunday with Wyoming. That'll be a 1 o'clock start. And then they travel to Nashville, Tennessee for the Journeyman duels. And the 3 matches now have been confirmed for Penn State. The Nittany Lions on Sunday, the 22nd, will face Binghamton at 3 o'clock, and then Arkansas Little Rock at 5 o'clock, and then the Missouri Tigers at 7 o'clock. So those are the matchups for Penn State.
Will they wrestle the same weights all 10? All 3 matches, or can you alternate? Like your 10 weight classes.
Yep.
One, you're going at 3, 5, and 7, right? Or noon.
Correct. 3, 5, and 7.
The first guys you put in at 3 o'clock, are they going to wrestle all 3 matches?
Not necessarily.
Okay. They can interchange and jump around. Okay.
Yep. Each dual meet will have its own.
And what is that? When is that in Nashville?
So, Penn State's participation will be December 22nd. They have matches both the 21st and the 22nd.
Well, we got a home playoff game here, so that's not going to be.
All 3 of Penn State's matches will be on the 22nd. Again, 3 o'clock against Binghamton, 5 o'clock against Arkansas Little Rock, and then 7 o'clock against Missouri. And then on Friday, January 10th, Penn State opens up Big Ten action at home against Michigan State. A week later, on Friday the 17th, Penn State will travel to Lincoln and take on the Cornhuskers. Penn State a week later, Friday the 24th, will visit Piscataway to take on Rutgers. And then the Nittany Lions will host Iowa at the Jordan Center on Friday, January 31st. And then a week later, Friday, February 7th, it'll be Michigan coming into the Bryce Jordan Center. And then Penn State will host Maryland on that following Sunday at Rec Hall. And then on Friday, February 14th, Penn State will make the trip to Columbus to take on Ohio State. February 16th, which is a Sunday, the Nittany Lions will be at Illinois. So that'll be the only road weekend where they have 2 road duels. And then, of course, it's the Big Ten Wrestling Championships in Evanston, Illinois this year from March 7th or March 8th through the 9th. And then the NCAA championships, of course, return to Philadelphia, which is where the championship runs under Cale Sanderson started for Penn State back in 2011. Nittany Lions and the NCAA tournament returning to Philadelphia for the first time since 2011 at the Wells Fargo Center. And that, of course, will be March 20th through the 22nd. So that is your schedule for Penn State wrestling. Again, back-to-back weekends with Bryce Jordan Center duels against Iowa and Michigan.
That's big ones.
And some interesting
The Michigan one is
ways the
Super Bowl
schedule
weekend
lines up. Yep.
Yeah, so the Eagles and Steelers fans will be down in wherever.
Oh, man. So depressing. So depressing, the Steelers on Sunday night, losing to the Cowboys after the weather delay. Too many weather delays already this season for my teams.
How long did you make it?
Between Penn State. I fell asleep very early in the third. I did everything I could to keep the eyes open.
Take your hat off to this man right here.
Yeah.
Dr. Powers.
I made a valiant effort, but the effort fell short.
Jeff was at the game. Got home at 5 o'clock in the morning, had 2 hours of sleep, and was into work at the Lube.
I know we
Monday morning at 7 a.m.
about it being a game of inches, but honest to God, that second down when they get the fumble, like it's
You're
the luck
talking
of the
to me
bounce.
like I watched
there.
that game. I was
It's
asleep.
the luck of the bounce.
I was
though.
asleep on the
if
third
the
play of that
Steelers,
game.
they make the play to win the game. They just don't get the result, and it just and then 2 plays later. Cowboys get the victory and walk out of there with
You're talking about the goal line stand?
A heartbreaking loss for the
My
Steelers.
Lord, was that a great hit.
Yeah, it was.
It was
what should have been a game
set
winner,
up
and
perfect.
they just didn't get on the ball. And that's I'm not.
No, you know what?
Everybody's trying to get to the ball. They just the Cowboys happen to get it.
That play cost Cam Newton his career, not going after that ball like that in the Super Bowl. So Dak Prescott, he went and got that football. He was not going to lose that game. He didn't, by the way. The Cowboys won that game.
And now the Steelers.
So I'm 0-2 as a Steelers fan this year.
Yeah, not
could
good.
be me. What is it? 4-2 now, or 2-3, or 3-2?
Steelers are 3-2 this year.
Wow.
Yeah, and now to me,
you just need me as a hater. You can't have me as a Steeler fan.
There's not much margin for error here in these next 3 weeks. And I know it's a long season. Anything can happen, all of that. And I agree with all of that. But listen, when you look at the way this schedule plays out, and with that loss to Dallas, to me, I'm not going to call them must wins because, again, it's a crazy season and you got to see how everything plays out. I will just say that these are 3 games, the next 3 weeks, that if you're a Steelers fan, like you really want to have. It feels like you got to have for this team to get
give them to
the playoffs. So you're at the Raiders this week. This is a Raiders team that is just a mess right now. And the Steelers will go in as strong.
And what are the Steelers
favorites.
right now?
Well, they're not a mess. There's nobody asking to be traded. They're coming off back-to-back very tough losses that were very winnable.
Mentally, they're done. Nope.
Raiders are just a hot mess right now. But these are the types of games that the Steelers have lost in recent.
They play down to their opponent.
Not just recent years.
Isn't that the old adage? They play down to the opponent.
So and you're going to Vegas, so it's not a given for sure. And I am not saying that. I am saying it is a game that after these back-to-back losses, the Steelers need to get these next 3. Then you're home with the Jets, and if you didn't see, Robert Saleh is out. They fired Saleh earlier today, and
disgraceful.
I'm not sure what all is going on there. I don't think Saleh was a great coach. But I also I'm not sure that organization right now or that team with the talent it has. I get Aaron Rodgers. I get that it's improved talent. I think anybody thinking that team was heading to the Super Bowl this year, and there were Jets fans that felt that, you were fairly
delusional than Pittsburgh fans.
So the Steelers have the Jets at home, and that'll be that's a Sunday night game, by the way.
Of course it is, because the Jets have to be on national television
in a couple of weeks. And then it's the Giants that come in, and that will be a Monday night game the following week. So you're home for back-to-back primetime games against the Jets and the Giants. And to me, if you're the Steelers, there has to be a sense of urgency this week taking on the Raiders. So while in the moment, back-to-back losses, and especially the Colts and Cowboys not exactly lighting the world on fire, it's like, if you take care of business, and you don't have to do anything spectacular to win those games the next 3 weeks, you just got to take care of business.
Correct.
They do that, and now all of a sudden, again, you're back. You're 6-2, which is where, to me, for a long time, I've said to make the playoffs, the way I always look at it is you've got to have 2, and this is when there were 16-game schedules, so it's a slight alteration now, but with the 16-game schedule, to get to the playoffs, you had to have 2 quarters, 2 4-game sections where you were 3-1, and 2 where you were 2-2. If you break it down that way, it's not gaudy stuff that you have to do. You don't have to go undefeated in any 4-game section. And that's going to get you 95% plus of the time into the playoffs, right? Like that, it is. 10-6 gets you to the playoffs. So now you have 1 additional game. Maybe you need to go 4-1 in that final, but even 3-2, 11-6 is going to get you into the playoffs.
Sure it is.
If that's the goal. So if the Steelers can get to 6-2, that gets you to 2 3-1.
What if they go
4-game marks? So
2-1. Are you all right with that?
I'm not feeling great.
You need all 3 to feel great. Okay.
Yes, to feel great. Now, in part because this is the schedule then on the other side. And again, you always get into danger. You don't know what injuries are going to occur. You don't know what teams are going to look like at various stages of the season. But as we sit here right now, I think it is a pretty daunting task from there on out for the Steelers. Again, you're at the Raiders. You're home in primetime games with the Jets and the Giants. To me, now, coming off the loss to the Cowboys and having that loss coming off the loss to the Colts, you need, and I'll use need in air quotes here because the season is certainly not over if they go 2-1, but getting to 6-2 feels fairly imperative because after that, Steelers go to the Commanders. Now they'll have a bye week. Am I right about that? I think they have the bye week before the game at the Commanders. Then they're home with the Ravens, at the Browns, home with the Bengals, home with the Browns, at the Eagles, at the Ravens, home with the Chiefs, home with the Bengals.
Pain.
There's not a week off there, in part because of rivalry games. I mean, the Browns feel like they should be kind of a week off. Hopefully, Deshaun Watson, they leave there at quarterback. As long as they do that, I think the Steelers are in good shape. My gosh, what a disaster that has become. I mean, what an absolute disaster. And is there any other organization than the Cleveland Browns where it feels like this would occur. And there's probably a couple out there, maybe the Jets. But man, what a disaster that
Carolina
has been.
Panthers recently.
Yeah.
They've been and then the Raiders have been like Kyler Murray in Arizona. He seems to be settling that organization down because they couldn't get out of their own way for a few years. But I'm with you. The Browns, I mean, you're there. I mean, you know my relationship with them. I say it every time my in-laws, man, Baker's doing good, man. Baker's doing good. Baker did everything they wanted. He beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in a freaking playoff game, and they run him out of town less than a year or two later.
Yep. I mean,
for a bright new sparkly car, it was Deshaun Watson, knowing what he had, kind of baggage he had going on him,
and
they still did it.
At the end of the day, the thing about it is, was it the change of scenery that helped Baker Mayfield as well? Like, if you stay with Cleveland, do you get mired down?
Somebody asked me this weekend, and I forgot.
In the Browns culture, and I feel like the answer is, yeah, you kind of do. Like, no matter who it is, when you're there, it becomes problematic. But
where was Baker in between?
In between the Browns and the Bucs?
I had to be reminded of it, and I was like, holy crap, you're right. He went to the Rams.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I think it was Goff still there, or did he get traded to Detroit and Stafford was hurt? One of the two, but he was playing from day one when he went out there.
Well, and now the Steelers have their the quarterback controversy, I guess.
This is the quarterback controversy they asked for, though, in my opinion.
Well, and listen, I still have no problem with the Steelers doing what they did. Because
getting them both?
Yeah, because
really?
you play the cards that you're dealt. And listen, if they had only gotten Russell Wilson, they're not 3-2 right now. I can tell you that. Oh. And if you had only Justin Fields, right? Like Fields, I don't know. It's interesting because it feels like they're making some baby steps on offense, or at least it did feel like that to me until this game Sunday night. And again, I fell asleep in the third quarter, so I'm reading the accounts. I didn't follow all of the second half, but this was a Dallas defense that has been decimated by injuries, has been not playing
horrible.
And for that offense to not be able to take advantage, I don't know. I know I was listening to Joe Lednowski and earlier today, and he was trying to pin this a little bit more on the defense, like saying that he isn't sure this is an elite defense, and if not for the turnovers. Well, first of all, the turnovers is that's how you become an elite defense, to me. But also, listen, in the NFL, the days of, well, if you're giving up double-digit points, you're not elite. Well, no. In this NFL, depending on the offense, you can give up 28 points and still be elite. Like if you're playing one of the high-end, high-octane offenses, no matter how elite your defense is, if you have a quarterback, a great offensive line, a quarterback, and a receiving core that are on the same page, the league is designed to get the points on the board. So, and again, the Steelers, they had a fourth turnover sitting there, and again, I'm not. The ball just bounced the wrong way for them, but they made the play to win the game. They just didn't get the result off of that play to win it. And then the Cowboys on fourth down make a great conversion.
What a perfect pass.
But yeah,
just the defensive back's hand.
Oh yeah,
it was
that's what I'm saying. It's
centimeters from just tipping that ball.
But that's what the game is designed to do. And if you have an offense, again, a quarterback and a quarterback that has some time, and receivers that are on the same page, no matter how good your defense is, points are going to be given up. So to me, this really is about the Steelers offense. And I don't think it's the 2-game losing skid. Again, both of those games were very winnable. I mean, the Steelers are like this close away, and I'm holding, for the radio audience, I'm holding my fingers very closely together. They are that close from being a 5-0 team right there with Kansas City. But it's the NFL. You are what your record is. All of that, and I'm on board with all of it. But it is on the offensive side. The question is going to become, does Russell Wilson's experience outweigh Justin Fields' escapability in terms of giving you a chance to win games? And until you get the side-by-side comparison, I think it's going to be very hard to make any kind of an accurate assessment. For the moment, I am in Camp Fields because I don't think Fields has done anything to lose the job. I don't think you can pin the losses these last 2 weeks on, man, if only they had better quarterback play. Now, that being said, do I think the quarterback play needs to be better for the Steelers to be any kind of a legit contender? And I'm not talking about you sneak into the playoffs as the last team in and you make the first week exit. I'm talking about if you're going to be a formidable out in the playoffs, get to the playoffs and be a team that other teams have to worry about, you have to get better production out of all of the offense, the running game for sure as well, but you've got to get better production out of the passing game. And it has to be much more consistent, and there has to be the long ball threat, which is lacking, to say the least.
I got to ask
point
you,
in the
speaking
season.
of that, Pickens.
Yeah,
you think Tom was covering for him by saying we were trying to like gauge him and doing this and that? I think
I don't know.
That's not the first time that guy's taken plays off, and he's taken a lot of plays off.
It's been very, very frustrating. And now, does Russell Wilson find him more often? I mean, I don't know. To me, it feels right now, outside looking in, like there's pretty good chemistry there. Like, I don't think the Steelers' problem is chemistry. I think the problem is they don't have enough healthy top-line guys on that offensive line. And I don't think they have enough in the receiving core. And this is no great revelation. Everybody knew going into the season the two biggest concerns for the Steelers. And yes, it would help to have somebody on the other side who is a bigger threat than what the Steelers have to offset Pickens and help open some things up. But these next 3 weeks, again, to me, are just absolutely critical for Pittsburgh if the Steelers are to remain in contention here for a North Division title and for being a team that, again, is one that can be a higher seed in the playoffs. And I do think it's possible, but it's not possible with the offense playing the way it is right now. Like, that has to get better. And I think it can. I do think it'll be interesting to see. I don't know if they can make a serious play here for Devontae Adams. I don't know what kind of risk that is with the locker room. But they have to get better in that receivers room if they are going to become, again, a team that can not just get to the playoffs, but make some kind of noise in the postseason. But it starts with one way or another. You have to find a way to win these next 3 weeks. And then in the process, I think everything that you think is doable in terms of getting more talent in that receiver room and or along that offensive line, I think you've at least got to be open to exploring it if you're the Steelers.
Sure.
And whether or not they can get something that makes it worthwhile, I don't know.
But I'm going to go with the offensive line. I mean, they lose 3 of their interior guys for a long time.
Yes.
You don't have the depth because, I mean, I'm not bashing, but they don't really have like the high-paid backups and stuff. Like the Eagles are spent a lot of money. I mean, it seems like the Steelers spent all their money on their defensive
They
line.
did. No, there's no question
money
about
around
it.
for the
That's
offensive
what happened.
line, and it's hodgepodge. You get a couple of your early picks go down. Now they're just like playing with free agent guys out there, and it's bad. I mean, the Cowboys didn't have their two top defensive end, one being Micah Parsons, and they look like they look like doomsday guys out there.
Yeah.
I mean, they look like they were killing people.
Yes.
And that's bad. It was bad. And
it's really bad, and it's why I think they need to make hay in the next 3 weeks, because you're going to be facing defensive lines like the Commanders, like the Eagles, like the Ravens down the stretch.
I got to ask.
Yep.
But I don't like it. Hurts doesn't show emotion. Fields doesn't show any kind of emotion either.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like that or don't like that.
I'm
Don't get
okay
too
with
wide
that.
in the moment, but it's like, dude, get mad. Get pissed at somebody. Do something.
I think you got to be who you are. We talk about this with coaches every now and then too. I don't like, if you're not a fiery guy, guys are going to pick up on it if you're trying to fake and I'm not, listen, there are moments where you're going to have fire, and I'm sure there's moments where Justin Fields is in the face of guys and we got to do this or that. But I mean, you have to be true to who you are. And if you're a cool cucumber, be a cool cucumber. If you're a guy that wears your emotions on your sleeve, be that guy. Now, certainly there's parameters on both, right? You can go too far either way. You can't be the guy that just never talks to your team and never says, all right, here we go. And you can't be the guy.
But you don't want it forced.
If you wear your emotions on your sleeve, you've also got to be able to rein that in and not go ballistic every time something doesn't go your way. So, I mean, yes, so you got to be who you are, but you've got to be able to understand the situation, what's called for.
And we talked to this past weekend, we got Paul Posluszny being on at halftime, being inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame.
How about having Posluszny and Shane Conlin back on the sidelines at Beaver Stadium? Pretty cool stuff.
So I bought it up on the Sunday show. Even last night, I think I bought it up. And that was when Puz was a sophomore, because DeLuca was our guest last night. He was a 2-time captain. So Sutherland he was, Clifford was, and then I think Puz was the only other. I mean, the only ever in the history of Joe Paterno was Paul Posluszny was a 2-time captain. But we were talking like in 2005, you had Michael Robinson, Alan Zamitis, and Paul Posluszny as your captains. Puz didn't have to do the fire and brimstone speeches. He didn't have to do it. He just went out there and led by example. And the next year, his senior year, it's like he had to be that guy, and it really wasn't his shtick of being that rah-rah type of guy and this and that. He would rather just go out there and say, follow me, and go out and kill everybody. You know what I mean? So it was like one of those, he had to learn that, but it wasn't forced. He was just such a good player, but those guys were such great leaders ahead of him. He didn't have to learn how to do that. So, there's a guy like Puz, but, obviously you're a team leader, your best player in your team, you're going to follow him just like Fields is. But I don't know. I just get that idea, like, is the game not fun to them? Are they just trying to keep their emotions in check? If I know how everybody could look at it either way and say, "Oh, he's too high for crazy. He's acting too nuts," or just chill out, act like you've been there before. So, I guess they can't win either way.
Again, there's different ways to lead. And I think there's different personalities that can be successful as quarterback, as coaches, as all of that. I just think, again, you need to know who you are, and you need to just present that and be authentic. And I think players will pick up on that, teammates, or again, if you're a coach, your team will pick up on that. And there's just so many different components that come into being a good quarterback. I will say again, Justin Fields, to me, the ability to avoid the turnover this season is, for me, unexpected and welcomed. And I'm okay with what the Steelers have received from Justin Fields. And because of that offensive line and the fact that even though they've lost these last 2 games, the Steelers have been relatively successful through 5 weeks. And again, I guess we can quibble on the term successful, but I'll put it this way. To me, Justin Fields gives you the best chance right now of getting to 6-2, comparing him and Russell Wilson. He's in the flow of this thing right now. I think I didn't see the second half of the game really on Sunday night. But up to that point, at least, I think his decision-making has been good. And I think because of his legs and that offensive line, it feels like that's the guy that's going to give you the best chance to win. And so long as he continues to make the good decisions and doesn't turn the ball over with any kind of regularity or frequency, that's what it feels like to me, both because he's in the flow of this now and because of the decision-making he's made to this point. And I think it's kind of a nice situation for the Steelers to have. And I know it kind of sounds like they might be leaning even toward Russell Wilson here within that coaching staff. And listen, there's a reason they get paid the big bucks. I also think from that standpoint, I think it's a more risky move, because I think if Justin Fields goes out and, let's say has a bad game against the Raiders and they lose it, it's like, well, okay, but you understand why they went with Fields. They had been 3-2. He'd been making good decisions up to that point. If Wilson goes out there and the offense sputters more than it has through the first 5 games, and again, I get it, the offense is not lighting the world on fire, but it doesn't feel like that's Justin Fields that is the problem there. It feels much more offensive line group number 1 and the injuries there, and the receiving core number 2. And truthfully, and maybe you tie it in with the offensive line, but Najee Harris and the lack of consistent production from the run game, 3. Like, Fields is last on my list of reasons why the offense is struggling.
I agree with you there.
And, Freiermuth maybe just ahead of him. But and so I think it's also more risky from a coaching standpoint. If Wilson goes in there and that thing doesn't work, then it becomes more difficult to go to Wilson if you need to later in the season 1, because then I think you have to go back to Fields, right? And then, so to me, it just makes sense on just about every level to just stick with Fields right now, at least through this week, see what happens in that Raiders game. And
I'm with you.
If he continues to make good decisions and you win that game,
you start him.
Again, I think you got a good chance to get to 6-2 with them. I mean,
do you go out and get Russell Wilson a couple series?
Maybe. It depends, I guess, on how you're defining quick hook. Like, if he goes out and has an interception or fumbles the ball, he's out of there. Yeah, no, I would not do that. If you have a second interception or a second turnover,
and you're down 14-0, and you need a little something.
Then yes, let's see what we have with Russell. Is the way I would.
Let's get the running game going for Keith Conlon's fantasy football team. Okay. Well, I'm a little upset about that whole aspect of it. I mean, I can't win a 4th title in a row.
Is Christian McCaffrey going to be back for my fantasy team? Because my team desperately needs it, is what I want.
What's your record, Jeff?
We're coming back. It's not good.
Do you have a win yet?
I do have a win. We're coming back with more. It is the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show here at Quaker Steak and Lube, and we're back after this. Leave me alone, man.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
Get our Best Wings USA, signature sauces, mouth-watering appetizers, or any of our delicious award-winning lube favorites.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
Two of the top names in local printing have combined to serve you better. King Printing of State College has merged with theprinters.com, forming one of the 400 largest printers in America. Combining traditional offset printing and digital workflow techniques, theprinters.com can print, assemble, package, and ship to anywhere in the world, all with the same high quality customers have known and trusted for over 50 years. Buy local and save. Get started today at theprinters.com.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen Baker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen Baker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen Baker.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
Get up and get going with the Happy Valleys 98.7 The Fox. The Goon and Ironhead.
We welcome you back in here on this Tuesday afternoon, one final segment of the big show today, and we get ready for Penn State at USC. We'll have more on that game coming up on Thursday. Again, it'll be a 3:30 Eastern time kickoff.
So, I mean, stop.
Between the Nittany Lions and the Trojans.
I need you to collect your adulation for what you said on Thursday.
Oh, I'm with you. So,
I mean, let's talk about this.
Missouri,
boom, nailed
overrated team.
Nailed it, Ironhead.
I will also give myself, and yes, I thought Texas A&M would win. I didn't necessarily see the trouncing that was.
I had to give you some. I give you some mad respect for that one.
I did not buy Missouri as a top 5 or 6 team in the country, and I think we even talked about it. I don't think that's a playoff team. Although, who is a playoff team in the SEC, I think, is becoming a very intriguing matter.
There's a lot of them. Just a question of who is going to be the 2 that go.
well, no, it'll be more than 2. But who are the playoff teams and who ends up left out in the SEC is going to be interesting. And by the way, same thing with the Big Ten. It is interesting, and it's just stating facts. So right now, we've been talking all year, and I think we're accurate, by the way. This isn't me saying that Booch and I were inaccurate in saying the SEC has the more top-end teams than the Big Ten or anybody else in the country, and probably by a pretty good measure. But somewhat ironically, as we sit here going into this weekend, for the first time in history, first time ever, the Big Ten has 3 of the top 4 teams in the country in the AP rankings. That has never happened before.
To the Big Ten.
Where 3 of the top 4 teams
the Big
are
Ten?
from the Big Ten.
Okay. Wow.
Well, yeah.
I mean, on SEC. I mean,
no, 3 of the
from
top
the
4
Ten.
teams were Big Ten
That's
schools.
mighty, mighty impressive, and that's usually goes against the way the polls work during the early part of the year. and that is they will overrank the SEC teams because they want them late in the year to not drop when they do lose games, not drop too far. But
now one of those teams is going to fall out of the top 4
Correct.
next week,
This
and
week.
so we'll be down to 2 at the most, and hopefully it is 2 because it'll be the Ohio State-Oregon winner, and if Penn State wins at USC, Penn State will remain in the top 4 at the very least going into next week. And
yeah,
let's just talk about the Big Ten, the way this is shaping up at the moment. So Ohio State, they have Big Ten Network on down here, and they threw up the stat that Ohio State, and I think it was 119-10. They have outscored opponents in the second half this season. And then they threw up Penn State has similar numbers in the second and third quarters this season.
Okay.
Both teams have come out. Halftime adjustments have been terrific by both Penn State and Ohio State this year, and they both have eye-popping numbers in the third quarter. Ohio State's are absurd. Penn State's are outstanding. Defense is pitching the shutout. Ohio State is through the roof good.
Yep.
Now, Ohio State has not played the caliber of opponents even that Penn State has, and we just went through. Penn State hasn't exactly played a litany of top contenders here, to say the least, in college football. So for this game for Penn State on Saturday at USC, they just need to find a way to win, right? Like, it'd be great to go out and win a convincing game and put everything together. That would be fantastic. Obviously, everybody would sign up for that. But at the end of the day, you just can't have this loss. If it's 21-20 and you win on a fluke play at the end of the game, so be it. You just need to get the W. That is the borderline must that has to happen here for Penn State. And the thing is, if Penn State does that, gets the W, then everything else is, as we've talked about all year, it falls Penn State's way because you have the week off before Wisconsin. This is a Wisconsin team that's down. It's college football. You can't take anything for granted. We certainly saw that this past weekend. But if Penn State takes care of business, and listen, it's that game is a concern, I will say, not only because it's at Wisconsin, but because of the track record here.
I'm thoroughly
with the bye
concerned
week.
about it.
Yep.
And I'm not going to lie.
I'm with you. So it's, while I think it certainly should be a win at Camp Randall, much like the Steelers game at Vegas this week, I'm not willing to just, we can put a check mark next to that ahead of time. Got to go out and see how it plays out. And Wisconsin's going to be looking
Jeff
to
Byers
make.
would.
Wisconsin's going to be looking to make its mark, right? Like, that win,
I agree,
will be their
their
season. Much like Arkansas just got its marquee victory, at least to this point. Vanderbilt, all of that. So that being said, Penn State should win that game. And then everything else plays, again, in Penn State's favor. You have Ohio State at home. Well, you'd much rather that than have to go to Columbus. Right now, I still think Ohio State's the best team in the country, and I think Ohio State is going to end up as the only undefeated team in the country at season's end. Does Penn State have a fighter's chance? Of course. It's college athletics. If Alabama can beat or Vanderbilt can beat Alabama, yes, Penn State can beat Ohio State. That is, it's not certainly a preposterous notion.
Vanderbilt can beat Alabama. Northwestern can beat Ohio State. That's,
yeah. Now, I do think Vanderbilt did not see this coming. I thought Vanderbilt might be able to give Bama a better game. And my idea of a better game might be able to stay within 3 or 4 touchdowns. Was in the 20s, I think it was in the. I double check me on that. I thought it was in the 20s. But listen, so nobody saw that the Vanderbilt win coming. Like, there's anybody that says they did is just flat out lying to you. But it is
22.5.
It is one of the beauties of of sports, right? It's why we watch, is every now and then, not very often, but every now and then you get that type of a weekend and that type of a singular result with Vandy and Alabama. So while you can never take anything for granted, again, Penn State should win at USC, should win at Wisconsin, and
should win the bye.
With Washington coming in here,
yep,
and that being the whiteout game, regardless of what happens here with Washington, that's a game that Penn State certainly should win, and then you should close out the season with victories. So it comes down to, can you take care of business against USC and then not do something dumb internally to shoot yourself in the foot, meaning take all of these games seriously, go out and execute, because if you do that, you're better than all of the other teams other than Ohio State remaining on the schedule. The trip to USC is the concern. To me, that's the bigger concern than the opponent. I don't think USC, even if they had defeated Minnesota, I was prepared to come on here and tell you, much like I didn't think Missouri was a top 6 team, I don't think USC is a top 10 team. I think it's a good team. I mean, I don't think this is a bottom feeder, but I don't think it's a top 15 program, meaning I don't think it's a playoff contender this year. And Penn State needs to be able to take advantage of that.
We have to realize that these guys are joining a new conference. They don't know how it is to play against Indiana, Rutgers, Nebraska, Penn State, Ohio State, Purdue, every week. Every week somebody's there to knock you. I mean, everybody can beat you. Yes, that's the old adage. You know that. But every team will beat you up. You will. It is a physical conference. And when they are nowhere close to being used to that. And I don't think the SEC is either.
I think this is, we've talked about it. I think this is one of the most, if not the most, physical team that James Franklin has put together here at Penn State.
Easily.
Both sides of the line. I mean, it's not just the lines, as we've talked about. I think this is a physical secondary, certainly a physical linebacking core, but I mean, it's a physical running back core. It's a physical receiving core. Yep. Tyler Warren's a kind of physical, I think.
Jeff, I'm telling you, just watch him. What he is doing out there to people is insane. And you're like, man, these guys are Division I athletes just getting absolutely smoked by these guys, by him.
So this is so if the Heisman Trophy was truly, and it's not, and I understand it, and I give 0% chance of Tyler Warren winning the Heisman Trophy. I don't even know that any of the Heisman voters, and there's plenty of them that follow the Nittany Lions, would put him on their ballot.
Correct.
But if the award truly was going to the best football player in college football, I'm telling you, I think I could make a really strong contention right now for Tyler Warren. He has, you're right. If you go back and look at his blocking this season, it's not just that he is, he understood the assignment. Somehow we got onto that, talking about that run that was going on for a while with I understood the assignment. Tyler Warren not only understands the assignment and completes it, he does it with authority. And then again, anything that touches his hands, I think there's been one ball that touched his hands and nobody thought that was really a catchable ball. I mean, he catches everything that's thrown to him. And then you throw in, my God, he's playing quarterback. He's running touchdowns in, flying through the air. He's throwing touchdowns in. I mean, come on. Yep. Like, if you're talking about the most complete and dominant football player, certainly others are in the – I'm not saying it's a runaway, but Tyler Warren would be in that discussion if that's truly what the Heisman Trophy was.
Travis Hunter and Tyler Warren would be the two, in my opinion, who mean the most to their teams. They do the most. And they're the best players on the field.
He is just such a
I just got to say, I was talking to somebody, like Mark Ingram last week from the Fox thing. We went out last week and we were talking, and he was just like, dude, this O-line, like they're mean. Like they want to be physical. They just don't want to block you. They want to bend you. They want to bend you over, like throw you over the pile, put you 6 feet in the ground. That's how
So-
physical they're playing up front right now.
UCLA was trying to take away the run, and to some degree, with Singleton out of there. I mean, if you look at the rushing numbers at the end of the game, and I had some folks come up to me and say, "Man, I thought what happened to our running game?" Well, here is the thing, and that's one of the more fascinating components to this game with USC on Saturday is what does USC do defensively? And then what does Andy Kotelnicki and this Penn State offense do to counter it? Because if
94
USC
all over again, Bubba.
comes out and says, listen, we see the running backs, we see this physical offensive line, we are going to take it away or at least slow it down significantly. And we just saw with UCLA how to do that. The problem is now you have Liam Clifford. You just open it up, 107 yards or whatever it was receiving for Clifford. You're going to open things up for Amari Evans. You're going to open things up for Trey Wallace. And Tyler Warren is going to open things up for himself and the offense. And then, and this is the thing. This is why, even though the numbers haven't been eye-popping, well, with the exception of Kent State, and they better be eye-popping against them, the numbers in terms of the points going on the board, not overwhelming here for Penn State. No question to this point. I do think that the potential is there, and I think you're seeing this thing start to come together. I think the fact that Clifford had the day he had, I think Fleming is you're kind of just waiting for maybe that breakout game from him here too. But man, he's doing a lot of the little dirty things that nobody's going to give you credit for that are important for this team to get to where it wants to get to. You get Singleton back in there. We've talked about it, Goon. He has just been a step away from breaking off big runs. Well, if you get a run or two like that against USC or even better yet against Ohio State, look out. This team's going to be right in the mix there when this thing is said and done. But this is a critical game for both of these teams. I mean, USC, if they are to have any chance of the playoffs, right, there's no margin for error. They've got to run the table now, and they know that. And that starts, obviously, they then have to win this game. And really, it feels like it's kind of a pivotal game for them to have a chance to kind of salvage their season. It's hard to imagine USC losing this game and not ending up with 4 or 5 losses at the least by the end of the year. Well, that's another discussion that I think is going to be occurring. For Penn State, if you lose this game, it changes the complete feeling, I think, within the fan base of right now, and various fans to various degrees. But it feels like this team, again, it's ranked 4th in the country. It feels like there's a path there to this being a top 4 team at the end of the year, one of the final 4 standing. Not saying it's impossible, not saying it can't happen if they lose Saturday. Boy, it feels really unlikely. In the moment, it's going to feel like, nope, not really a chance of that happening. And you then have to obviously win all of the games with the exception of Ohio State to have a shot at the playoffs. And unlike my thinking at the beginning of the season, Goon, I really don't think it is a foregone conclusion that a 10-2 Penn State team, if it loses to USC and then, let's say, loses by a couple of touchdowns or more to Ohio State, I think it could get in, but I think it's going to be they're going to be one of a handful of teams that'll be considered then. I don't think it's automatic that a 10-2 Penn State team, because of the way this schedule is playing out,
I'm
is
with you.
in there.
I'm with you. And that's scary because 10-2 they don't get in the Big Ten title game. They have another chance to get another big win.
Goon, can you imagine? I mean, if Penn State sits there as 13, if they be the first team out at 10-2, I don't want to go down that road. They just need to win the game, take care of business here on Saturday.
Get it done, baby.
Folks, we will be back on Thursday, and we'll have much more in this Penn State USC game and the things to watch.
Either I'll have this on.
And yes, the Philadelphia Phillies getting ready to take on the Mets here in a pivotal Game 3 in the National League Divisional Series. We'll talk to you on Thursday. Until then, be good And be
Coast
safe.
into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
Get our Best Wings USA, signature sauces, mouth-watering appetizers, or any of our delicious award-winning lube favorites.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
Two of the top names in local printing have combined to serve you better. King Printing and State College has merged with theprinters.com, forming one of the 400 largest printers in America. Combining traditional offset printing and digital workflow techniques, theprinters.com can print, assemble, package, and ship to anywhere in the world, all with the same high quality customers have known and trusted for over 50 years. Buy local and save. Get started today at theprinters.com.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen O'Habaker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen O'Habaker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen O'Habaker.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
Get up and get going with the Happy Valleys 98.7 The Fox. The